Imagine a single state teetering on the edge of history's greatest fracture, a slave-holding borderland that encircled the nation's capital on three sides, where one wrong move could have surrounded Washington, D.C. with hostile territory and potentially ended the Union before it could fight back. Maryland, where loyalties split families, mobs rioted in the streets of Baltimore, and a president suspended the Constitution's most sacred protection to keep the state in line. In April 1861, the first blood of the Civil War spilled not in Sumter's harbor, but on Pratt Street. Had Maryland tipped south, the war might have ended differently or never truly begun. This is the hidden story of the state that almost divided America forever. In the early 1600s, England buzzed with religious strife. Catholics faced persecution under Protestant kings. Enter George Calvert, the first Lord Baltimore, a convert to Catholicism, a skilled diplomat, and a man with a vision. He dreamed of a refuge where Catholics could worship freely, yet live alongside Protestants in peace. In 1632, his son Cecil secured the charter for Maryland, named for Queen Henrietta Maria. The colonies stretched from the Potomac north, a buffer between Protestant Virginia and potential Catholic havens. In 1634, settlers landed at St. Mary's City. Jesuits accompanied them, planting the seeds of faith. Unlike other colonies, Maryland's founders emphasized tolerance. The 1649 Maryland Toleration Act, officially an act concerning religion, granted freedom of worship to all Christians. It was groundbreaking, the first law in North America mandating religious tolerance, protecting Catholics from Protestant majorities and vice versa. Though limited to Christians and harsh on non-believers, it set a precedent that echoed into the Bill of Rights. Life took root along the Chesapeake Bay. Tobacco became king, labor-intensive, profitable, and reliant on indentured servants, then enslaved Africans. Plantations spread, and by the 1700s, enslaved people formed a significant portion of the population. Baltimore emerged as a bustling port, shipbuilding thriving on the bay's waters. The state balanced southern agriculture with northern trade ties, a microcosm of America's growing divides. Revolution forged Maryland's identity. During the War for Independence, Maryland troops earned the nickname Old Line at battles like Long Island, standing firm when others broke. The state ratified the Constitution in 1788, seventh to join, but slavery persisted and tensions simmered. By the mid-1800s, Maryland sat astride the Mason-Dixon line, literally and figuratively. Northern industry pulled at Baltimore's railroads and factories. Southern culture held sway on Eastern Shore plantations. The Compromise of 1850 and Kansas-Nebraska Act deepened fissures. When Abraham Lincoln won in 1860 without carrying a single Southern state, Maryland's loyalties fractured. April 19, 1861, the powder keg ignited. The 6th Massachusetts Regiment marched through Baltimore en route to Washington. A pro-Confederate mob attacked, pelting troops with bricks and stones. Soldiers fired back. 4 soldiers and 12 civilians died in the Pratt Street Riot, the first bloodshed of the Civil War on Northern soil. Bridges burned, telegraph lines cut. Secession seemed imminent. Governor Thomas Hicks, initially Southern-leaning, wavered but ultimately held firm. The legislature, moved to pro-Union Frederick, never called a secession convention, yet fear gripped Lincoln. If Maryland fell, the capital would be isolated. Lincoln acted decisively and controversially. On April 27, 1861, he authorized suspension of Habeas Corpus along military lines to Philadelphia. Union troops occupied Annapolis and Baltimore. Federal Hill loomed with artillery over the city. Pro-secession legislators and newspaper editors were arrested without trial, locked in Fort McHenry. Chief Justice Roger Taney, a Marylander, ruled the suspension unconstitutional in Ex parte Merriman, but Lincoln ignored it. Thousands faced detention without charges. The move secured Maryland for the Union, but at the cost of civil liberties. The state became a battleground. In September 1862, Robert E. Lee invaded, hoping to rally Maryland sympathizers. His army marched through Frederick, where Barbara Fritchie legendarily waved the Union flag. At Antietam Creek near Sharpsburg, the bloodiest single day in American history unfolded, September 17, 1862. over 22,000 casualties in cornfields and sunken roads. Lee's retreat ended the invasion, giving Lincoln the victory he needed to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. Maryland, still a slave state, felt the shift. In 1864, a new constitution abolished slavery, narrowly passed amid Union soldier votes. Later, Jubal Early's 1864 raid reached Monocacy, the battle that saved Washington. Maryland paid dearly, families divided, sons in blue and gray. Post-war Maryland rebuilt. Baltimore's port boomed, railroads expanded. The state industrialized, steel, shipbuilding, canning. Johns Hopkins University and hospital rose in 1876, pioneering research and medicine. Immigration swelled cities with Germans, Irish, Poles. The 20th century brought military might. World wars filled shipyards with Liberty ships. Fort Meade, Aberdeen Proving Ground anchored defense. The Chesapeake Bay Bridge linked shores in 1952, knitting the state together. Civil rights stirred change. Baltimore's Thurgood Marshall argued Brown v. Board. Desegregation came unevenly, but Maryland avoided Deep South violence. Politically, Maryland produced leaders. Spiro Agnew rose then fell. Barbara Mikulski, Nancy Pelosi shaped national policy. Today, Maryland thrives at the crossroads. Washington's suburbs drive federal employment. Baltimore's port handles global trade. Biotech booms around Hopkins and NIH nearby. Aerospace, cybersecurity flourish at Fort Meade, home to NSA. The state ranks high in education, income, innovation. Baltimore rebuilds. Inner Harbor revitalizes. Downtown plans pour billions into housing, green spaces. Challenges persist: urban crime, opioid crisis, rural-urban divide, but resilience endures. From Antietam's fields to modern labs, Maryland bridges divides. Maryland never seceded, yet it embodied America's deepest rift. A slave state that stayed Union through force and choice, a tolerance pioneer that suspended freedoms to preserve the nation. Its land soaked up the war's worst day, its people fought on both sides, its leaders bent the Constitution to save it. In this state that almost divided America, we see the cost of unity and its fragile triumph. Surrounded by monuments to battles won and liberties tested, Maryland asks, how far will we go to hold together? When division threatens the whole, what sacrifices do we demand? The Potomac still flows, carrying echoes of those choices. The answer lies not in forgetting the tension, but in learning from the state that held the line.